Hello everybody, this is Howard, the Teaser King, coming to you with a recap of what I'm seeing so far in college and pros and good teams and bad teams. Just an overall summary of what's happening so far. Real quick on my locks, I'm red hot 15-1 on the last 16 lock picks. Doesn't include all the teasers, probably better than that because I'll put, like last week I had Arizona Cardinals and 3 teasers. So I'm only counting the teams that I won, not all the teasers I put them in, because I had them with Western Michigan and Bowling Green and Atlanta. So I'm just saying, of the last 16 games that I've locked, I've won 15 and lost 1. So I'm having a really good year with the locks. 2 years ago I was 86% with my locks. Last year I was about 55%. It's funny how it ebbs and flows, and sometimes I just totally missed my locks and hit everything else. This year I'm hitting everything and my locks, so I've been red hot, well into the 80%, I believe. I've only had really one losing week. That was week, I think, 3 of college. It just always happens. You're not reading the teams right. Now I've got a full understanding of the teams, and like last week, in my new method, I know who's weak and who's strong. So I know Miami of Ohio is a terrible team, and Western I know is an explosive team. And they played Michigan State well, and they played some really good games. So basically, that was one long, playing a fairly over team against a weak under team. So now that I know who's the overs and who's the unders, and who's strong and who's weak, it's a lot easier to find the locks, especially in college. In the pros, it's pretty much more trend analysis, and I'm looking and I know who the strong teams are and who the weak teams are there already, because there's only 32 and you're watching them anyway. It's a lot easier to see and know Jacksonville stinks, Tennessee stinks, New England, Arizona, Carolina are the real strong teams. So it's not the same, but in college you got 125 teams, and I'll tell you, you would think you would be locking Ohio State and Southern Cal and teams like that, but most of my locks have been Western Kentucky, Bowling Green, Memphis, Western Michigan, more MAC teams and more of the smaller conferences, and the reason being, the teams are so bad there. North Texas, Miami of Ohio, I don't know, let me see, Troy, Eastern Michigan, Wake Forest, Oregon State, Charlotte, Old Dominion. So you can tell there's always a bad team like Kansas. Kansas is terrible. Oregon State's terrible in the conference. So you can see that coming. Like Baylor hosts Kansas. Baylor's going to beat them by 60 points. So you can see the lock happening, or you can see the setup. Maybe Baylor TCU is going to be a lock over. I mean, you just wait for that game. And in most cases, the spread determines the lock. Like last week, Arizona, and this is why I tell you to buy locks early, probably by Tuesday, and try to get them in Tuesday or Wednesday. Tuesday, I locked Arizona at 7.5, so I'm only laying 1.5. By game time on Monday night, the line was 10. So you basically had, 10 minus 4. Yeah, you still won, but if I'm laying under 3, it's a hell of a lot more stronger bet than laying 4 or 3.5, 9.5 down to 3.5. So that's why I do it. I can see where the line's moving, because I'm taking the strong against the weak. So most of my locks are going to go up. I'm very rarely taking a weak team in a lock. Sometimes I'll lock the over-unders, like I did last week. I had New Orleans Indy in a lock over, which won. But basically, normally it's not, and normally my lines move like so. Arizona went from 7.5 to 10. That'll happen a lot with the teams I'm picking. So that's what you have. So get those in early. So buy Tuesday, buy the locks, get them in, and then make your bet. And then what I also do is I'll tend to put, like I said, Arizona in 2 or 3 teasers, and I'll make them stronger. So in other words, let's say one unit is $350 right now. Well, let's say 300, and then 2 units is 600, and then 3 units will be 900. So what I tend to do in the lock, I'll play it for 900 now. If you go onto my history, go to my history page, you'll see every pick. You'll see the locks, but I'm not just saying this. You can see it's all documented, and you'll see the locks, and it'll say lock, and you'll see the history, and you'll see the amount. So when people ask me what's my percentage, that's why it's crucial that I hit my locks, because by hitting the locks, I'm betting more units on that teaser than another teaser. So instead of betting 300 on a unit, I could lose two 300. I could lose two, 3-unit bets, $300 bets, but then hit the lock for 900, and I'm up. So I can go 1 and 2 and win. And I'm smart enough to put that lock in 2 or 3 other teasers. Usually I try for 2 teasers with it, and I'll bet more units on it. So I can always find 2 or 3 games to lock, or 1 to lock, and 2 or 3 that are pretty strong. So I can normally find those. So what I'm looking at is pounding those. So as long as I'm successful with those, and now I'm on one of my hot streaks. Like I said, 15 and 1, 6 for 6 last week, and 4 for 4 the week before, and I think 5 and 1 on the week prior. So as long as I'm there, you're going to make a lot of money, because you're putting them in multiple teasers. I put them together too. I love Bowling Green, Western Michigan, and Arizona Cardinals, and I put a Western Bowling Green teaser, a Bowling Green Arizona, and a Western Bowling Green. Now, if I lost one, I lose 2 teasers, but I'm taking advantage of how strong the locks are. I would have had Minnesota been the dog from the beginning, I would have locked Minnesota and Arizona big, and then I would have locked Bowling Green Western big, and just played those 4 locks, as opposed to putting Arizona in 2. But I couldn't. Minnesota at the time was favored, so I couldn't lock them, and that's why I said the spread makes the lock. Minnesota as a dog against the Lions is absolutely a joke. Minnesota laying 3, and you get 3 in a teaser, that's not as strong. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm ranking the teams over and under, strong and weak. So like I said, a strong team is Temple. A weak team is Louisiana Monroe. A weak team's North Texas, SMU. Boston College is weak in the conference, and they're under. Every game they play is low scoring and under, and they're very weak. They barely score. New Mexico State's a weak team. So what I'm looking for is a real strong team. A Memphis, a Western Kentucky, and what I mean is strong in their own conference. I mean, Bowling Green's strong in the MAC. Now, if they look at last week, Western Kentucky's strong in their division, in their conference. I'm going to lock them half the time. But when they play LSU, it's not the same. You can't. It's apples and oranges. Now I can play LSU against South Carolina, because South Carolina's very weak, and Missouri's very weak. There's a lot of unders in the SEC because they don't have quarterbacks. Missouri's very weak. So LSU against Missouri, I might lock if the spread's right. If the spread's wrong, I can't lock it. So that's what I'm looking for, is if I get the right spread with the right team, then I want to go ahead and lock it. And so I'm looking for the strong against the weak, a high-scoring team against a low-scoring team preferably. So I'm going to look and lock Western Kentucky against somebody weak in their conference. And you can just look at the standings and see this team's 0-8 or 1-7, and they don't score like a North Texas. So Western Kentucky, I'm going to lock against North Texas, because Western Kentucky's going to score 50. North Texas can't score at all. I don't remember. I think I did lock that as one of my locks. It was either Western Kentucky or Memphis against them, and they blew them out. And that's what normally happens. Then you tend to watch teams like Texas Tech's playing Oklahoma this week. The point spread will dictate if I lock it. If it's a 60, I'm going to lock it. If it's 80, it's harder to lock. They might still get there, but the confidence level is not as strong. So that's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at. So a lot depends on the spread. So what I'm saying is, if you get a good spread, it's going to jump. I'm noticing these over-unders jumping all over the place. So you got to be careful there and try to get those in. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's where I'm getting more and more successful. Is really jumping, playing against the weak team, which I've identified, and then I can tell if they're over under. I go on like Yahoo Rivals, and it gives you all the stats, and you can see this team's not scoring. You can look at the quarterback. This guy throws for 100 yards a game. Well, you can be deceived by that, because Georgia Southern's quarterback throws for 60 yards a game, but they run for 500. And Navy and Georgia Tech, certain teams, they're going to not have that good quarterback. But a normal team who doesn't run for a lot and they don't throw for a lot, or the quarterback has 5 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, then you go, oh, this is a terrible team. They don't score a lot. They don't know how to score, and you be careful with it. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking at weak defenses and strong defenses. And again, you can pretty much tell that by the stats, but again, be careful who they played. If Kansas played Baylor, TCU, and Oklahoma State, yeah, of course their stats are going to be skewed because they're playing all these high-scoring teams versus a lower-scoring team. So, like Iowa State maybe didn't play those 3 teams. You go, wow, their stats are so much better. Yeah, but they haven't played the 3 big shots yet. As far as Baylor's quarterback, I thought it was ridiculous. It was a helmet-to-helmet. You guys should have been thrown out. Why is their quarterback running and then pulling over? Why weren't they passing in the game? They were up 35-0, and then they're getting near the end. They're just running the ball, and they don't cover because they're running. And I know it was a rainy day, but they put up 35 in the rain, and now you lose your quarterback because he runs head first trying to get a first down. Why isn't he going back to pass against Iowa State, who gave up 60 points to TCU? I couldn't understand that at all. Terrible coaching there. And the quarterback needs to slide. You can't have your quarterback running head first. And if he does, they certainly should call helmet to helmet. Now their backup, supposedly really great quarterback, even though he's a freshman, highly recruited. He runs that system. But I don't think Baylor will fall off. I think it'll take this kid a half. So in the next game you'll watch, they get a bye, which means they'll even be practicing more, knowing that this guy's the guy. So don't look for Baylor to drop off too much. Anyway, that's about it. I just wanted to kind of go over like the halfway mark. I'll let you know who. I hope you are enjoying these 7 and 9 and 11 team teasers. I'm really just trying to show you 7, 8, 9 games that I'm playing that can be documented, that can help you, that you can just pick 2 of them and put them in teasers. Now last week in the Utah USC one, I had Utah in 10 and went up to 12. I went up to 6, so I had them in 12, and I was really shocked by that score. I didn't get why USC was so heavily favored and why they won the game so easily. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but that's kind of where you want to stay away from. I was playing Utah as strong and as dog. USC I didn't find that strong. I mean, they had struggled with Stanford, and they lost to Notre Dame, so I was kind of looking like Utah's stronger and the dog. But that is one where you got to be careful because it really wasn't strong against weak. It was kind of strong against strong. And I try to stay away from those because that's exactly what can happen. And that's the strange part. USC, they lose their coach. They lose to Notre Dame. They lose, a lot, and then here they go when they win by 30 points over a really good Utah team. So one thing I'll be looking at is teams off of a loss like Utah. Now they're at home against Oregon State. I love that game. I'll put that on my college picks, but that's why I'm doing the multiple team teasers, is give you an idea. I do play 5 team teasers regularly, and my friend takes them and plays 5 team parlays with them. So that's what we're looking for. So I'm hoping this helps you. Just bet against the weak teams. In college it's easier. You can look at the standings, you can look at the statistics, you can just ask me. I got a whole list of them, and I basically list every team, and that's what I do here. It's a little sloppy, But what I'm looking at here is over and under, strong and weak. The oranges are the weak teams, and I just go by conference. I know it's a little scratchy, and I'll put it on an Excel sheet, but for now I just kind of been developing it as I go, and basically looking at the conference going, you're the weak teams, you're the real strong teams. Western Kentucky, you're the over team. Memphis, you're the over team. And when I get them against an under team who's weak, with a weak defense, then I'm locking them and jumping on them. And that's really the key to it. So anyway, I'll have some locks going this week. Please buy soon. And like I said, get the bet in as soon as possible, because the lines tend to jump, especially in college. They'll go 2, 3, 4. Look at Arizona. Monday night went from 7.5 to 10. So get the lines in quickly. You've gotta. That's a huge difference, getting a 7.5 down to 1.5 versus a 10 to 4. So again, we're all here to make money. I'm trying to make you money. These are just some things. All right, everybody, have a great week. I'll be doing my other videos maybe tomorrow, maybe today. Pros in college. Okay, everybody, good luck. Let's beat the bookies. All right, www.teaserking.com. Leave me comments here. I'll be happy to help.